You're tuned in to the Binge It Babe podcast with your host, me, Candace Estelle. All right, babes, let's get binging. Hey, hi, hello, and how are you, babes? It's the second week of our very special December series where I've got my guest star, Buddy Gott, here, who's a fellow podcaster and writer. And today we're going to be talking about the film from 2006, The Holiday.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, it's a thrill for me to be here with you, Candace. Hey, that's a great sweater you have on. What's
Oh,
there?
well, thank you. This is my dinosaur themed Christmas sweater. So we've got a T Rex pulling the sleigh, and we've got some velociraptors eating the reindeer.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's really unique.
it's very festive, and I love it.
It's very festive. Oh my gosh, you know, I could say that's probably not for everybody, but it suits you perfectly.
Oh well, yeah.
And I
I
mean
have
that
a
in the nicest way.
I have a welcome to Jurassic Park sign in my house, so it's very
Really?
on brand for me.
Wow. That's a movie I've got to eventually see one of these days. I'm just messing with you right now. Yes, I have seen Jurassic Park. I've seen most of those, I think. I think I just
I
did
don't
the
even
last one.
I don't know how I would even. We do have to cancel this series. We'd have to watch Jurassic Park.
Oh no, I saw the first one in the theaters. You probably weren't even born then. But
I You know this. This is the first movie I've ever seen in theaters.
oh my
I
gosh,
was,
that's right.
like,
Yeah, I forgot
a
that.
few months old, and my mom put me in the theater, and everyone was pissed, but I didn't make a peep.
I forgot that that was the first movie you saw. But anyway, love that sweater. That's fantastic. And I love the
Yes.
holiday.
Yay, it's holiday time.
Look, we have the DVD.
Wonderful.
One of my favorite movies ever.
I don't have the DVD. This is the bookshelf. I don't know why I was looking. Well, so The Holiday is on both of our top 5 lists.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
go ahead.
it's a little different though because the movie itself doesn't really revolve around Christmas.
Mm-mm. It doesn't. Christmas is just a very, very minimal part of it.
Right. I feel like the ending scene is New Year's, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it starts off with a Christmas party at the workplace of one of the characters.
Iris.
Iris, yes. And I think there's like some exchanging of gifts, but that's about it. There's really not much else Christmas related.
Well, so the office party is at Iris's work, and she works at a newspaper. And this is also where we find out that she's in an unrequited love problem with her coworker Jasper Bloom, who definitely is just constantly leading her on because he gets probably sex from her and work favors and attention, and he's one of those guys who loves that. And it's at this holiday party that she also finds out that he is marrying someone else that they work with,
Yeah.
and proposed to her, and it gets announced while she's standing there, and she had just handed him like a very nice Christmas present. And
Very
he's like,
expensive.
"Oh, I
Yeah.
always forget. I've got yours. Don't worry, it's in the car. I'll grab it later and next time I see you or something." So
Yeah.
he's a cad and he sucks.
Yes.
Um, I'm not sure if that's the opening scene though, because I thought the opening scene was Cameron Diaz throwing her boyfriend Ethan out of the house.
Yeah, you're probably right. I knew it was just, I meant to say it was towards the opening of the movie. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's the opening scene, but
we're
yeah.
not sure who gets brought up first, but those are our two protagonists. It's Iris, who's played by the beautiful, wonderful Kate Winslet, and Cameron Diaz's character Amanda. And I'm in love with Cameron Diaz as well, so it's a great film for me to watch. And she is kicking her boyfriend out of her super nice house in California,
hmm
where
Ethan?
she suspects that he's cheating. And she's like, "Look, we're over regardless. So why don't you tell me?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course. She's in love with me. Just another absolute cad. The worst kind of men." So that's where we start. Now, the cool thing is that Amanda is like this super like top of her field trailer editor. which
Hmm.
is the coolest thing I've ever heard of. Had no idea that was a job.
Yeah.
Wish I enjoyed editing because I would love that.
I
Um,
love some of the trailers we see in this movie too.
yes. That's one of the really fun things is they'll do like these trailer interstitials and they have legit actors
Hmm.
playing in the trailers. Like at one point it's Lindsay Lohan,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
James Franco in one together, I believe.
Yep, I was just gonna leave him out because of who he is. Um
Okay. I don't know much about him, but we'll go with that.
oh, he's been in trouble a lot for sexual assault.
Mm. Oh, okay.
Like a lot.
Oh, wow.
Which is a real shame.
Yeah.
But yes, so we have fun with that. Her assistant is John Krasinski,
Hmm.
and someone else who I want to say is like it might be Catherine Hahn, but
I
I'm
was
not
just going to say, I wrote
positive.
it down just to, yeah, John Krasinski and Catherine Hahn, and I
It
mean,
is Catherine Hahn?
yeah,
Okay.
and their careers. I mean, they were barely in the movie, but then their careers blew up. And Catherine Hahn right now is she's gotten to be so big, which I think is wonderful. I love her.
I love her and I feel like we're all like, "Oh, she's just now getting big." But if you look at her career, she's in
She's in
everything.
a lot. She's in a
She's
lot.
in Step Brothers and Parks and Rec, and now she's in the MCU, like a lot, which
Yeah.
is awesome. And
Yeah. Yeah, she's been around for a while, but I just love the fact that it seems like now I think people maybe knew her, but maybe didn't know her name. But now people,
now we appreciate her.
yeah, exactly. I haven't watched her new series yet, the Agatha All Along,
Oh my goodness.
but I'm intrigued by
I have seen it. So, but we could talk about it later.
that. Okay.
Um, I'm an MCU babe, so I'm gonna be on top of all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got those characters lined up and they're in California and then we did bring up Iris and
Hmm.
Iris is in I want to say like the Cotswolds or something like that or Surrey.
Surrey, that's it.
Surrey,
That's
England.
where Cary Grant was from.
Wow. I didn't even know Cary Grant wasn't American.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I was kind of quoting a line from the movie too, because there's a scene where I guess Iris tells Arthur where she's from. Arthur, the old man, and he says, "Oh yeah, that's where Cary Grant's from." How do you know that? And he's like, "Oh, he told me." Because this man, Arthur, well, we'll probably talk more about him. He worked in the film industry for many years as a writer. He knew everybody, and he knew Cary Grant.
He's wonderful.
Oh yeah.
So the whole premise of this movie, if you haven't seen it, again, what are you doing with your life? And what are you doing in this episode titled The Holiday? Um, and this movie is about these two women who are obviously at this weird crossroads, of course, romantically, because it is a rom com, where they're like, I need to do something else with my life. So, over the Christmas holiday, they decide that they're going to do a housing swap. And I think Amanda chooses England. I know she chooses it because there won't be a language barrier, because I remember her saying that, like,
Hmm.
where do they speak English?
Yes. Yeah.
England.
Exactly.
Okay. And I remember being like, oh my God, that's so
Yeah.
American. Um, and then she looks at the Cotswolds and she says, "Okay, that looks like downtown LA or something like that."
Hmm.
And then she sees Surrey, she sees the cottage and she goes, "Okay," and accepts. And then Iris sees it and she's basically getting a California mansion.
Yeah. Although she doesn't realize that quite at the time. Only all she knows is
No.
that it's in LA, and
Yeah,
she's
and she's
excited
like,
about
"Yeah,
that.
fine, I'll do it." And so it's basically a house swap for the
Exactly.
holiday.
Yeah, and
So,
the houses couldn't be much more different, but they are both wonderful. Like I love Iris's house in England, little Rose Hill Cottage.
I love it. I love the stone and the grass and the little gate in the front. That's absolutely my vibe.
Yeah, same here. So, and my wife always says the same thing. She goes, "Oh, I would love to have a place like that.
Mhm.
Maybe not
Isn't
that
that
bathtub
interesting?
that's in
I
there."
love that bathtub. I love a
It's
bathtub.
cool looking, but I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's really interesting that, like, out of us, and we're all creative people, because his wife is also an author, so she's a creative as well.
Mhm.
That, like, we've got these two houses, and one of them is a small cottage, and one of them is a mansion, and all of us are like, it's the cottage for
Yeah,
us.
I take the cottage. But it's I don't want to like step into anything you were going to say, but it's just something when each of them goes into those homes that are not their own and they're so much different and their
Mhm.
reactions to them are wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell us about irises if you have that on the top of your head, because that one's my favorite.
Well, yeah, I mean, when Iris goes into Amanda's home, and well, she first of all, she's struggling to even get into it, right? Or no, I guess she arrives okay. It's later on when she's trying to let in Miles that she has problems with the gate there, the security gate. But she goes into this place and it's just huge. And I love there. She like dives onto the bed. She's jumping up and down. She's like a child in this house. She's so excited. And one thing that I loved was seeing all the movies, the DVD collection, I guess, that Amanda has. And she works in the film industry. And it's just like you see shelf after shelf after shelf of all these movies. And she's listening to music. One of my favorite scenes in it too is, well, she's Kate Winslet's dancing. I forget what the song is. I think it's more of a I think it's some '90s popular song. But she's just like on top of the world. It's fantastic.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
Yeah,
She's like, "Yes!" And she's running through.
yeah,
And Amanda, on the other hand, opposite reaction. She's having a hard time even getting there because she has to, like,
oh
pull
my
all of
god,
her designer stuff through the snow, and she's like,
yeah,
"Oh
because
my god."
the driver wouldn't go any further, so she had to walk
He
quite a
leaves
distance.
her, which is ridiculous. And then she gets in and she's just like, "What?" Like, it's nice, it's just that it's more quaint than I think she's used to.
Yeah,
And so she's just like, "Okay," and, looking around, she's watching, Iris's dog, which I always found interesting.
yeah, me too.
Um,
It's kind of an
I
odd
find that
thing.
really odd. And then when she goes to the grocery store and the lady's like, "Oh, it looks like you're gonna have a party because all she's got is, like, wine and cheese and, like, meat." And she goes, "Mhm."
I love it. And yeah, like you said, she probably wasn't in the best, I don't know, maybe state to even actually go on this trip because she doesn't give it much of a chance at first before she's ready to give up.
Yeah.
Although she does meet somebody that kind of changes things for her.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does. I think from those looks on your face, you kind of like this character and actor.
This is I don't really care about the actor necessarily. It's Jude Law,
Mhm.
who is a little bit older for me to be like, "That was my crush growing up." But what I will say is that his character in this movie
Mhm.
is exactly like my ideal romantic trope. Aside from the fact that he has kids, but like that, like very sensitive and sweet, but fun,
Mhm.
British accent. That's great. Having an accent's fun, you know? Because this is much later in the movie, but it is my favorite line. And it's when she was going to leave and she comes back at one point and he's standing inside and he's
Oh,
crying because
yeah,
he misses her. And
yeah.
I was just
He
like,
just goes. He just look. Yeah.
I'm a weepa, darling. And I was like, "I told you I'm a weepa." And I was like, "Oh, I love it." I'm totally fine with a guy who cries, I like it.
He's
But yeah,
boring
no,
them.
he's so charming. This is Jude Law at his, like, most charming Jude Law is
Very
because
charming
in
in it.
other movies, when he's being Jude Law, he's also being a cad.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so this is the only time you ever see him where he's not. He's
No.
not being a womanizer, he's not being a bad guy, he's a sweet widower who is doing his best, and the reason that he ends up with Amanda is because he tries to get into Iris's cottage because that's his sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's wonderful. He shows up there very, very drunk because he frequents the pub nearby, and usually when he gets a little too pissed, I think he says, he crashes there. So he goes there to
Yeah,
crash, not knowing that his sister is not there, or he forgot about it because he was super drunk.
he
And
doesn't know. She didn't tell him,
oh,
remember, because
okay,
they
that's
both left so quickly.
yeah.
So I got to introduce a romantic lead. Would you like to introduce a romantic lead?
Well, sure. Well, in California, where other things are going on, we like we said, we do have Iris there, and as we said, she had had that horrible relationship with Jasper, so she's trying to flee that, and she meets a man named Miles, who is played by Jack Black, and Miles actually he's a coworker of Amanda's now ex-boyfriend Ethan, and he goes there to like to maybe pick up some of Ethan's stuff. He goes to Amanda's house, and that's how he meets Iris. And he has a girlfriend who is an actress who You could tell that they don't really seem to have all that great of a connection. They seem very different. They're not fighting or anything when we meet them, but you do
He
see
treats her really well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's just enamored with her. He raves about her to others. He's so in love with her. He feels like she's out of his league. But there's still an instant connection between Miles and Iris. Not automatically, like falling in love, but things happen throughout the movie that lead them to a very nice ending, I think.
The
But
Santa Ana's is the first clue we get.
yes, yes, the Santa Ana. Yes, yes, and. It's actually I haven't seen a ton of Jack Black movies, but of the ones I've seen, this I would say this is my favorite. I mean, I think he's fantastic in this.
What do you mean you haven't seen a lot of Jack Black stuff?
I like Jack Black. I think the only one. Let's see, I have seen. What's the movies that he did with The Rock and Jumanji?
Jumanji.
I love him in the Jumanji movies.
I was watching that
I
before we started this episode.
what'd you say?
I was watching that before we
Oh,
started the
were you
episode
really?
today.
Yeah, those two movies were great. I hope there's a third one at some point. Um, what's the actress that's in those? I really like her. Karen.
Karen Gillan?
Yeah, Carolyn Gillan. I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I know her from that first. And anyway, and I liked Shallow Hal quite a bit. I haven't seen it in a while, but I liked Shallow Hal. I love Shallow Hal. Haven't seen
You're gonna
much else by him though.
you're gonna want to reconsider that one. It's super controversial as well.
I know it is. Yeah, I know it is. I know it's very controversial, but I remember seeing it in theaters at the time and enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I know
You've never
Gwyneth Paltrow
seen
has problems with
Tenacious.
that movie.
You've never seen Tenacious D
Nope. It looks like something I would love. I'm
or
not all
Nacho
familiar with.
Libre
No,
or Envy.
no, no. I haven't seen any of these.
Oh, you know what? You know the one that you'll like the most? Be Kind Rewind.
Oh yeah, I'm not. I don't even know that title. Wow. Be Kind, Rewind.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an older one?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Jack Black's awesome.
I've always liked him, despite the fact that I haven't seen much. I like him.
He's super cool. His mother is like an astrophysicist and is one of the women who did the mathematics, I believe, for the Apollo mission.
Wow.
Uh, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And she actually had to go in, fix some of the math that was happening for the launch, went in, fixed it, and then went into labor and had Jack Black the same day.
Wow, that's quite a story. That's amazing.
I know, women are amazing, and when you have an
Absolutely,
amazing
women are
female woman mom who's a hero, you know what you make? Jack Black.
amazing.
It's a win.
But he's fantastic in this movie. I love the relationship he has with Iris, and also a relationship that he develops with a man I had mentioned earlier named Arthur, who Iris befriends. He
I love
isn't
Arthur.
Arthur wonderful? Do you want to tell people more, a little bit more about Arthur, or?
I don't know, because I'm pretty sure he's dead, so it's gonna make me
He
sad.
is. The actor Eli Wallach passed away. I don't know how many years after this movie, but he did pass away. He was brilliant in this movie. I mean, he had quite a career. I don't know how much you know about him, but he was even in some Clint Eastwood movies where he was a bad guy, and he's wonderful in this. He's, as I mentioned before, he was a legendary screenwriter. He's kind of reclusive now. His wife had passed away. We don't know how long ago, but he's a widower. Struggles a little bit with his health because he's I think he's close to 90. I think they might say his age, but I can't remember. But Ira sees him kind of like wandering around lost outside of the mansion that she's staying in, and she helps him out, brings him home, and they develop a friendship. And he has an interesting storyline where there's a big ceremony that these people want to put on for him to celebrate his career as a screenwriter that he's very reluctant to do, in no small part because of his age and the struggles that he has with even the fear of like, even walking up onto a stage. And Iris helps him out, and subsequently Miles gets to meet him too and develops a friendship with him. And it's just there's one wonderful scene after another, very charming and touching.
I think that's like so Cameron Diaz and Jude Law I adore and they have the better like love thing going on in my
Mhm.
opinion. But Iris has a more well-rounded story because yeah, she does end up with Miles and that's really nice. but also her and Arthur become like these friends. And Arthur, like you said, as the character is this incredible screenwriter. And so he's friends with all of these other men who are also like big wigs in old Hollywood.
Hmm.
And like you said, she does meet him when he's wandering around because he's lost. And the reason he's lost is because he's lived in that neighborhood his basically his entire adult life.
Yeah.
And now that everything's grown up around it, he doesn't really know
Yeah.
where it is anymore. It
Yeah.
doesn't
It's
look
not that he.
familiar.
Yeah.
And the ceremony, he wasn't ever considering going to. He's not even opening the letters. And Iris opens it and sees it. And his thing is he doesn't want to get up on stage with a walker so that
Hmm.
people can be like, "Oh, great job." He goes, "It feels like, like an end of my life thing, and I don't want to do it." And so she actually remember she works out with him for those couple of weeks so that he's strong enough to walk up on the stage
Yeah.
without the walker.
He's got him in the
And
pool exercising,
yeah,
and that's
the
one of
the
my favorite
pool
scenes.
aerobics,
Yeah.
or water aerobics. And then the other thing is that like Miles is hanging out so much because he also likes Arthur because he's still dating Maggie for most of the movie until
Hmm.
he finds out while he's in a blockbuster that Maggie's cheating on him.
Hmm.
Um, which no one's surprised because she looked like a dick. Um, but the reason Miles is also hanging out is yes, Miles worked with Ethan, but they're all in the entertainment industry, just like Amanda.
Yeah.
And Miles does the music, remember, for the trailers. And so
Yes.
he creates a score for Arthur for while he's going up on stage, his like introduction score.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
wonderful.
one of the best, most romantic parts is he's like, "I made one for you too," and then he, like, plays it for her, and it's very sweet.
It's very.
Um, I love older people, I don't hang around older people as much because it does legitimately make me sad where I'm just like, "You're going to be gone sooner rather than later," and probably before me. And so it's hard, but there's so much value in just getting to sit around a table and listen to even old men, old white men just talk about their lives and the things they've been through. And,
Yeah.
I remember when they put up the Hollywood sign and stuff like that. Like, that's fantastic. And as
Yeah.
someone who loves to write and interview people, um, some of the best people to get to interview are older people because they've done everything and they have these insights and these beautiful stories from a time that's so different from ours. And so it's
Exactly.
this like beautiful little nugget of nostalgia that you get to carry with you even though you didn't live through it. And I think that
Hmm.
that's like one of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And the things you just brought up, I mean, and scenes in this movie with Arthur, they kind of make you think about real life and how wonderful it can be to speak to an older person. I know I live right across the park from me is a senior living facility.
Mhm.
And there are people in there with their health problems, but there's also others who just live there. It's just where they live. And I see them walking out in the park, and I actually know some of them because some of them have dogs and they walk them. And there's like two or three that I've gotten to know over the years that it's pretty much exactly like you just said. I've talked to them and heard these wonderful stories where you wouldn't even maybe I don't know, maybe at different points in my life, maybe when I was younger and not as knowledgeable, I would have seen them and think, oh, I don't want to talk to an old person. What am I going to get out of that conversation? But you do talk to people and you see they're people just like you. They have had, they have their struggles, they have their stories they can share. And I've learned fascinating things about this one man who was actually a local politician, and I would have never guessed that even talking to him. And he was telling me about being actually friends with Joe Biden and such. And you get to hear these wonderful. I live like 3 miles from Joe Biden's home, so I live in Delaware. There's a lot of Joe Biden stuff around here, but
Yeah.
yeah, talking with older people can be just wonderful.
There's just I think a lot of people forget, right? Because you're either like, "Oh, the story doesn't matter to me," or you do have like the racist, xenophobic,
Hmm.
horrible older people.
Yes.
That happens too. Hello, grandma. But like my neighbor who lives across from me, her husband died earlier this year. I met him before he passed away, and I go and I visit with her every now and again, and she'll invite me in for tea and stuff like that. And we also have a language barrier. She's in her 80s, I want to say, and we'll sit and we'll have tea together and do our best to communicate,
Oh,
back and
that's
forth.
nice.
And it's really lovely. Although the last time I was over there, she told me I needed to make friends my own age. She said, "You need to make friends." And I said, "Oh, I got you. It's fine." And I was just kind of like blowing it off and being nice. And she was like, You need friends your own age. You need to go be with people around your own age.
Well,
And I was like,
that's
"All
sweet
right, what a
though. I
wonderful
mean,
sentence for you to have learned in English. Thank you very much."
I'm sure she didn't mean, "Hey, stop coming around." She probably just wants you to be happy.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't take it as offensive, but that's kind of like one of those funny things that'll also happen when you're older is a lot of times you're not as filtered because you don't feel the need
It's
to
true.
be, and so she was sitting there with me, and we're just having a blast, and we're talking about, she was given a whole bunch of, like, china, and so I was helping her dig through it, and I was taking pictures for her so she could try to sell it, and so I was helping her do all of that, and I was showing her how she could look it up to see what its value was and stuff like that. And, that's what we were doing. We're just hanging out and, like, looking through teacups and stuff like that, and,
That's really
um,
nice.
yeah, it's a very fulfilling relationship. It's not a very intense one because, she is still someone I don't really know very well, but, like, when I see her, I'm happy to see her, you know? And I feel like I've never been the person when it's older people where I'm like, "Oh, it's just an older person. I don't even
Hmm.
care," right? I'm
Yeah.
not like that at all. For me, I very much so have the opposite problem where it's just like it's an older person and I just don't wanna be attached. I don't wanna be attached to this person that could be gone at some point,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
understand that. I understand that.
And I know that the futility of life and I could die before her. We never know.
Yeah.
Everything is weird and things happen. But it's one of those things where like that's why when we were talking about Arthur and I was just like, I just know. I know that he's not here anymore. This movie's almost 20 years old and that man was very old at that point, you
Yeah.
know. I have a hard time watching older stuff for that reason. And we've talked about that. We talked about that with Twister and we talked about that with
Yeah.
Friends and
That can be
um
hard. That can be hard. I know. Are you familiar with a British show called Are You Being Served?
I am not. Tell me about
Okay.
it.
Well, it was a show that took place. It was very popular apparently in the 1970s. I never saw it. It was a British show, sitcom, where it was basically about the staff of this really posh department store. Anyway,
Mhm.
it ran for a long time. I think close to 10 years. But I discovered it in the 80s and fell in love with it. And I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I showed it to my wife for the first time. She had never seen it. And then we're
Mhm.
watching it, and she absolutely loved it, cracking up over every episode. But then she got really bummed out because I told her she'd ask about different cast members. I'm like, oh yeah, she passed away. Oh, he passed away. She passed away. Everyone in this cast, except for one cast member, had passed away. And my wife
Mhm.
had the reaction you were just describing. It's sort of like it really bummed her out. She goes, oh, I've fallen in love with these characters and people, and it really makes me sad that that they've all been gone for a long time. And I
Yeah,
get
I
that.
mean, it's kind of like if you read an obituary and it's people you don't know, they're kind of just words, right? It's like, "Oh, this person sounds like they had, a lovely life or an incredible life or they've done a lot in their life, whatever." And then you if you watch stuff or you grow up watching stuff or it's different when you're watching a video and you see how they move and you hear the timbre
Yeah,
of their voice and you watch them get older depending on how long the thing is that you're watching, right? Like we'll get to Alan Rickman a little bit later when we do Love Actually, right? But we see him there, we see him in Die Hard, we see him in uh Harry Potter.
yeah,
And now he's gone. And that one I was kind of like, okay, okay. And then
yeah.
now Dame Maggie Smith passed away this year.
Hmm. Yeah,
I don't even know if I'm going to be able to watch the movies anymore,
yeah.
because
Well,
that
hopefully,
one it's
yeah,
more,
yeah,
and like I'm such a pop culture person that I also go through and I watch like their interviews and I listen to them talk and
mhm.
oh, when I was a girl, I did this and I had this kind of life and I rode a bicycle and I had children and I got married and then you can still see them, right? It's these
Yeah,
perfect time capsules of something, and then you go, "That's not here anymore. There's no
yeah,
longer this spirit around." And
yeah,
it's this deep melancholy that I feel, and I can't help it. And it's really
yeah.
unfortunate because, like, I enjoy Arrested Development, right?
Mhm.
Waters is gone. So now
Yeah.
I'll watch it and she's hilarious, and I'm just like, "She's dead,"
Oh,
or like Brooklyn
wonderful. Jessica
Nine-Nine.
Walter, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we talked about this too when we did our episodes about Friends with Matthew
Mhm.
Perry. It's hard. I think sometimes it does just for me. I feel the same kinds of things that you do. It's really hard because I have this personal connection with these
Mhm.
actors and actresses and musicians in other cases who have passed. Sometimes for me, it just takes a while. Like just recently, I just started watching Friends again, and
Yeah.
at first it was hard because Matthew Perry actually it was just the 1 year anniversary of his
It was
passing
a 1
not
year,
long
yeah.
ago. But I'm at I'm at an okay place with it now, where I just go it just I'm spending time with this old person that I cared about
Yeah.
who's gone. So
Yeah. I'm still in the spot where it kind of feels like I'm watching a ghost,
yeah,
you know,
I understand
someone I
that.
care about and I can't touch. And it's not
Yeah,
like I've ever touched them before, you know. I don't really know these people, but when you watch them and you hear them, you know something.
yeah,
It's not a
oh, absolutely,
stranger anymore.
yeah,
Like the one that I think hits me the two that hit me the hardest are Anthony Bourdain
hmm,
and Robin Williams. And
yeah,
like one that also was really difficult for me was Steve Irwin. But the
okay,
thing is like Steve Irwin happened long enough ago, even for me, that if I see clips of him, I just go, "Oh, there you are,"
yeah,
you
yeah,
know. But like with Robin Williams, it's very much so like, why, you know. And with
yeah,
Anthony Bourdain, especially with how much I love to travel and eat and stuff like that, like I was in Vietnam last year and I made sure to like go to the restaurant that he recommended and all of
oh,
that stuff to be like closer in some way, you know,
yeah,
because
oh, that's nice.
like when I talk to my friends and stuff about travel, especially because I travel solo so often and I don't really travel very luxuriously on account of having very little funds when it comes to stuff like that. But like I fancy myself the female modern day Bourdain, right? I'm going to try
Yeah,
whatever I can try and I'm going to live the way I should live for this culture and try to experience it exactly how he would want me to have experienced it because that's what I want to do as well. And so like I haven't finished his books because I don't want to because I know there won't be another one.
yeah,
You know, I haven't finished No Reservations or Parts Unknown. I've watched a lot of them and it's just like I know there's no more episodes,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And so with with things like that, it's just I think it's nice because it is in a way it's grief, right? And it's saying, "Hey, I just want to preserve this and have a little bit more of you left."
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Maybe one day I'll be able to watch it.
I understand. I totally do.
Yeah.
And we started this by talking because we were talking about Eli Wallach, who played Arthur.
Yeah.
And I thought it was nice. Again, I like I said earlier, I don't know how long it was that he until he passed after he did this movie. It was at least a few years, but I don't know. For me, it's kind of nice in some ways to know that he had this well-loved character and well-loved movie towards the end of his career.
Mhm.
Sometimes actors and actresses only have that when they're younger.
Yeah,
To
he got introduced to a whole new generation.
exactly, exactly. So I think that's nice to kind of, I don't know, kind of go out in some ways on a hit on this beloved thing.
And
I,
it is. The Holiday is one of the most beloved holiday movies.
yeah,
And I
and
think that's a couple of things, which is that like the writing is very good, the story is very good. It's very uplifting and fun, but it's also not completely Christmas centric. So
yes,
I think more demographics can enjoy it.
yeah, I think you're right. And I remember hearing too, I don't know any financial numbers on this, but I don't think it was a big blockbuster financially when it first came out. But it's one that's grown in popularity over the years because of,
Mhm.
on cable TV and of course just different streaming platforms and back on DVD and even VHS, I want to say. Well, I guess VHS was pretty faded out by 2006, but it's just grown and grown and grown. It is a movie that many people watch every year. My wife and I watch it every year. We watched it. We did a Christmas in summer theme over the summer where we watched this and we watched Love Actually and one other one. But yeah, it's a holiday favorite for so many people.
It is.
Even though, like we said, it's not necessarily a real Christmassy movie.
But I think that's also kind of nice, right? It's like a good palate cleanser,
Hmm. Yes, that's a good way
you
to put
know? It's like, "Hey, you've got, like, oh, the cheer," but it's not like, "Wah, in your face, cheer," it's not Elf, it's not The Grinch where it's just like,
No.
it's only about Christmas. It's about love and friendship and, trying again after you've been hurt and the value of meeting new people in different places that you never thought would be anything, right? Like you
Yeah.
and I, how we became friends.
Yeah.
That's a
Who would
crazy
have?
coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you have all these like unexpected things that you couldn't guess would happen in a million years. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they
And I
do.
think that's the beauty of life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite part of this movie?
It's hard to pick a favorite part. One thing that's just popped into my head. I don't know if it's my favorite part, but it's a part that I always love. Is It's a scene in England between Iris. I'm sorry, not Iris. Amanda and Graham, where they have met and they've had some relations with each other, and they're starting to fall for each other. And she decides to surprise him by visiting him in his home,
Mhm.
and coming to the door with him are his first there is one little girl who turns out to be his daughter, and then his other little girl who turns out to be his daughter. And Amanda did not know about them for multiple reasons, which you should probably watch the movie to find that out. But there are some very sweet scenes that happen with the four of them. I love Mr. Napkinhead.
Mhm.
Is that what you were going to say? Is that why you were
No,
doing?
I was doing this one where she
Oh,
borrows
oh yeah,
Amanda's
with
lip
the
gloss.
oh yeah, that's really sweet. And they are I
Cherry kiss.
yeah, Sophie and Olivia. They're the cutest little kids. They're just and they're so sweet, and they go into this beautiful tent that they have in their bedroom, which
Mhm.
is it's just a very touching scene. And there's a part where they're all holding hands together, and it's just very sweet.
Yeah. And it's really lovely because we did mention that Jude Law's character is a widower,
Yeah.
so his wife has passed away, which means that the girl's mother is who's passed away.
Hmm.
And so this is the first time that he's brought a woman home since then. We don't know how long it's been, but I think it's probably at least been about 4 years, maybe 5
Something like
years.
that. Yeah.
And so they're getting to be around this beautiful, wonderfully glamorous, woman and they're just getting along so well and it's like this feminine motherly energy that they're missing in their lives. And then because they only have their dad. And I don't know. It's so beautiful because they're sitting there and like she asked to borrow her lipstick and she loves the way perfume smells and she can't wait to get to wear makeup too. And it's all those cutesy,
Yeah.
more feminine things that they are missing out on because they only get one parent. And I think I do want to make like a caveat there. Like if you're in a gay relationship of any kind, children aren't necessarily missing out on stuff, but they do hopefully have two parents. Even if they're both same sex, they're going to have two parents and aunts and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that gay kids would in any way be missing out. I'm saying
Right.
these kids literally have lost a parent.
Yeah.
They are missing that motherly thing that they had at some point. And so Amanda comes in and surprisingly it goes well and they all love her and I think that's great. Plus I love British children.
The accents and everything.
Oh, it's so cute. They're so precocious sounding, but they're teeny and it's wonderful. I love British children. I was in London a few years ago and I was at high tea because I love high tea. And little girls will also go to high tea. And I remember just this little girl talking to her mom and she was like, Mummy, would you like another scone? And I was like, oh, because she was like 6 and I was losing my mind.
You did that
I
very
was,
well, by the way, Candace.
oh, thanks. Oh god, it's so wonderful. This movie makes me feel so warm,
Yeah.
and it happens to be, after, any of my breakups that I've had as an adult. Because this movie came out when I was still, uh, a child. Um, it's the only rom-com I can stomach, even heartbroken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's just so great. I remember the first time I saw it. Well, I was an adult, but I didn't see it in the theater. But I remember watching it with a girlfriend at the time. It was a very short-lived relationship, but
Ooh.
but I remember she was, I don't know, not really, seemingly not very moved by anything in the movie. And I'm
No.
thinking at the
Red flag, cut her off.
well, exactly. That was kind of my thinking. I'm like, oh boy, she doesn't seem to. We just seem to have different, I don't know, views on what we find touching and meaningful. And so, but anyway, yeah, I liked the movie back then, and then I grew to love it after I met my wife Lisa because it turned out it was one of her favorite movies, and since then we have watched it. Like I said, at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, and
Yeah.
it's not just her favorite Christmas movie; it is her favorite movie. And
Aw, this
while
episode is dedicated to Lisa.
yeah, it's dedicated to you, sweetheart. And yeah, so I had already thought it was great, and then it's just each year it's grown to mean more and more to me personally.
Yeah, it's one of those I didn't see it in theaters either. Did it come out in theaters?
It did, yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, 2006.
Okay. I saw it with, a family member that I don't have in my family anymore, and, I remember watching it with them and just being like, "I love this." Like, as a kid, I wasn't someone who cried, but this is one of those movies where, like, I remember when Amanda starts leaving and she didn't cry either. That's a big character thing.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why I had that connection because I didn't cry either as a kid because of, trauma. So, I was really and in 2006, I would have been 14. So I probably saw the movie for the first time around 15. So I'm definitely a teenager. I've still got, like emotions and stuff. And I remember she's someone who doesn't cry
yeah.
ever after her parents got divorced. She shut
He was
down
like
that
I think
part
a
of herself.
teenager, a young teenager at the time.
Mhm. And she used to call her and her parents, they were the Three Musketeers. And that's something that happens when she's with Jude Law and his daughters, is that they call themselves the Three Musketeers
I
too.
forgot to mention that. That's so touching.
It's so freaking good, but, like, when she's leaving, the first time when she does go back and she sees Jude Law and he's a weeper, and she's leaving and she stops and goes back because she starts crying and she's like, "Oh
Hmm.
my god, I'm good." Like,
Yeah.
she truly finally
Oh,
feels and loves again, which she hasn't been able to do, and I remember, like, seeing that and tearing up and being like, "Oh my god,"
yeah,
and, like, having that moment, especially as a 15-year-old girl, where I was just like, "One day, I'm going to be loved, and I'm going to feel that way again,"
oh,
like, I'll feel that
yeah,
way too, and so it's always been this, like, pinnacle of hope for me that, like, one day, I'm going to feel that way, and I'm going to meet my, my Jude Law character, um, and so it's one of those things that, yeah, even especially heartbroken, I can watch that movie and I feel like, "That's right. It's my
yeah.
one day. My hope is here. Thank you, Nancy Meyer."
Yeah. Yeah, these are the kinds of movies that do give you hope. I remember watching it. I had many years where I was and barely even dating, but I would see this movie and maybe some other, one or two others like it where, it does give you hope. And
Mhm.
while you realize that it's a movie and life is not always or rarely like what you would see in a movie, it still gives you hope because there is love out there. There are connections with not only romantic interests, but just people like we talked about earlier that you wouldn't guess would happen. I don't know if you had 50 years to guess about it, but things you can be thrown these great, wonderful curveballs, and your life can change so much for the better.
Well, and I think one of the extra special, wonderful, things that happens is, like, one of the things is obviously everyone who's falling in love, they live in different countries. And at
Hmm.
the end of the movie, because we are wrapping this up, at
Yes.
the end of the movie, um, Cameron Diaz's character, Amanda, and Jack Black's character, Miles, who are both in America, both choose to go be in England because Cameron Diaz can work from anywhere. She could,
Hmm.
and Miles works with her. So I think that's probably the same for them. It's not fully
Yeah.
discussed on that end, but it's one of those things where, like, Jude Law's character couldn't. And Iris works at a newspaper. They're probably gonna there's no remote work in 2006,
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, it's also this incredibly romantic, like, we met in another country and now I'm coming to be with you somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's, like, the most romantic trope you can have, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I think it's
Sometimes it makes
really
me think of my wife and I, because we lived in several states apart when we met. We met online, and she ended up, coming here and moving here to Delaware, and much, much different than going to a different country. But still, you're uprooting your life into a totally different thing because, well, because that's what you know in your heart you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, but it's also the most romantic thing to say, "Hey, I think you're it, and I'm going to put everything in it because I truly believe that." Like,
Yeah, it's wonderful.
that's true love. Look at you. You're living your holiday dreams.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, that's so sweet. Where was she at?
She was in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Not too far away, about a little over 3 hours, I guess, but still, that's significant.
It is. It's too much to continue that distance, you know?
Yeah. She was actually, after we got together, I visited her first down in Virginia. I know we're going to end the show, but I'll just say real quick. I
No,
visited her
tell
down
us
in
your love
Virginia.
story. This one's dedicated to Lisa.
Well, when we did meet, well, actually, we started talking in January. We had known each other kind of a little bit. Started to actually, we had a loose connection for a year or so, but then once we started emailing each other, we never really stopped. That started in January. We met in person in February. We started doing video chats online. 4 days after our first conversation on the phone, we told each other we loved each other. We got engaged in June and we got married in October. So it was a very, very, very quick courtship. And I had visited her down in Virginia, and then like a month later, she visited me. And then she came up every weekend. She drove up every weekend to see me until after we got married. So I mean, she put a lot of miles on her car. I
And
was
not
in a
only that, but
position where
she's
I
who
could not
uprooted.
do. What's that?
Not only that, but she's who uprooted. She's who
Yeah, she
came to
did
you.
uproot. Yeah, I because of just family situation
You
at the time.
better be treating her well, mister.
Oh, I am. I am. I am.
And your anniversary just happened, right? Because isn't it
Yeah, it
on
was our 10th
Halloween?
anniversary. Yeah. We got married on Halloween, which is also her birthday, and just had our 10th anniversary. And I swear, just we're just so crazy about each other. Every day is absolutely wonderful. I'm the luckiest person ever.
Isn't that beautiful?
I I couldn't be happier.
Oh, I'm happy for you. That's like the best thing to hear. I love it because so often everything in the media is just like, we hate each other, or she's nagging me, or and it's so nice to hear a story where it's like it's 10 years later and we did all the things and we made it work and we love each other so much and
Oh well, thank you. Yeah, it's we joke sometimes that we were surprised that we still, I don't know, even talk and text as much as we do. Like we text like all day long while she's at work. It was sort of like the first few months we're together. It'll be in the evening. We'll be like, oh, what did you send me earlier in that text? And we're like scrolling because we just never shut up with each other.
I think that's kind of wonderful, right? Like
I think so. Yeah.
it's great to have a physical connection to somebody, but more importantly, if you can talk to them,
Yeah.
you've got it made. If you can
Yeah.
talk about anything too,
Exactly. And a lot of people don't have that. And everyone's relationships are different. But, I mean, we are no doubt each other's best friends. So, and I love that.
like you should text her and be like, Lisa, if you could time travel, would you choose to time travel back in time to be with the dinosaurs and see what's going on, or travel forward in time to see what Earth is like in a million years or something like that? You only have an hour in either place before you're brought back to your own time. It's a great prompt just for you to ask her later.
I will do that. Thank you.
I'm just
That'll,
giving you extra stuff to talk about in case you're like, oh, I'm running low. It's 10 years, and I need what? What's the weirdest thing I can ask her?
I'm going to hold on to that one. Maybe I'll need that in another 10 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 20-year anniversary, and you're like, I've always wanted to know.
Well, I loved talking about that movie. I can't wait for us to talk. Hey, what one will we be talking about next?
Next, we're doing The Grinch.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
I'm going to lose it.
I know.
Yeah, we're gonna we're gonna do The Grinch next. The Grinch will actually be the final true episode of season one of Binge It Babe, and it'll be our 50th episode. So it's a big, big deal, and
Oh.
we're doing that next week. And then we'll have one bonus episode coming up for your stupid movie that you picked. So
Okay. All right. Well, it was great talking with you. Bye, everybody. Bye, babes.
bye, babes.